We are pleased to be sitting down with New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy here at our global headquarters in New York City. Governor Murphy, I want to start with a topic that hits close to home, which is congestion pricing in Manhattan. Last week, the MTA approved a revised plan to charge drivers $9 to enter much of the city versus the original $15. You oppose both versions and are fighting it out in court. Are you seeking an emergency ruling to halt implementation? Do you think that you'll be able to stop this?
I can't speak for the judge who's adjudicating here, but we're going to try like heck. It's not that, listen, I think we've got the strongest environmental record of any state in America over the past 7 years. I'm proud of that. We're not against lowering pollution. We're for that. But there's a time, there's a place, there's a deal that works for New Jersey commuters and ones that don't. And this displaces the pollution to New Jersey. It doesn't get rid of it. It's an enormous burden financially on our commuters. And lastly, none of the money comes back on our side of the Hudson, where we've also got transit fiscal challenges.
Right.
So with all due respect to the MTA, we want them to solve their problem within the four walls of the MTA, just like we have with NJ Transit in New Jersey. And perhaps when the gateway tunnels are finished and you've got 4 tunnels with rail tracks as opposed to 2, or when the Port Authority bus terminal is finished, the new one, which we've got both going at long last, there's a time and a place perhaps, but not now.
Okay, I'm going to follow up on a bunch of those questions, but first of all, when it comes to congestion pricing, you have said that you're open to a form of it. What would that plan need to look like for it to gain your support?
I don't have the parameters of it, but it would need to be a reasonable price, discounts that make sense, an amount of money that comes back to Jersey, and a timetable that allows our commuters to look at what their options are. I think that's a reasonable, by the way, what we've asked the federal judge is not, we're not asking for the moon. We're asking that he force the federal administration to do an environmental impact study, and we'll live with the results of that.
Have you had conversations specifically with the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, as well as the mayor of New York about those issues? And if so, what was their response?
So we've got the good news is we start in a very good place with our relationship with both Eric Adams and Kathy Hochul, and we do an enormous amount with both the city and the state together. Yes, we've spoken person to person, team to team. This has been a multi-year process, and our ask has always been, let's do an environmental impact study, and at the same time, let's get at the table together, and while that's playing itself out, let's talk about what the contours could be of a deal that we could all live with.
But this congestion pricing plan is more than just about the environment. It's obviously to alleviate congestion as well. The idea that there are just a lot of folks coming into this city that, at least certain people think, maybe shouldn't, or they should take public transit into the city. If you don't have the congestion pricing, what is the solution to alleviate the traffic conditions? So
let me say first and foremost, and the MTA wrote this themselves, the number one objective here is to solve their fiscal hole. They've said that themselves. That's it. Don't take my word for it. While congestion and lowering pollution is a noble objective, and it's certainly one of their objectives. It's the number one objective is to solve their fiscal hole. We've got the same challenge at NJ Transit. We've chosen to solve our problems within the 4 walls of New Jersey. We put in a corporate transit fee while New Jersey Transit takes a few years to get back on their fiscal feet, which it will take. All the big transit systems, by the way, in the country are going through a similar reality. We've found a fee, which we don't do lightly, that will allow a bridge to a better fiscal future for them. I don't know what the alternative is for the MTA, but I strongly would like to encourage them to pursue other avenues. As for New York City, we root for New York City. Its success in so many respects is our success. I don't know why, for the life of us, when people are working from home, we're still digging out from a pandemic, why New York City would want fewer people in New York City than more, but that's not my domain.
Let's go back to New Jersey Transit, which you've mentioned a couple of times. Commuters who rely on it, very frustrated by the breakdowns, especially this past summer. You've pledged to fix the system, even if it kills you.
I'm still here. I'm still alive.
You're still alive. You've mentioned this business tax, perhaps, to support NJT. You've also raised fares not so long ago. How much of this is simply a funding problem versus something bigger?
Well, it ultimately will be a big funding problem if we did not find the solutions, and we have found the solutions, which are multi-year. We did not raise fares for 6 years. Longest stretch of fares not being raised ever in New Jersey Transit. We just finally raised them this year. We put in place this corporate transit fee. People, I'm not making an excuse for what we're calling the summer of hell. It was unacceptable to commuters. It was unacceptable to me, period. In fact, we put a free week at the end of the summer just as a tip of the cap to the fact that it was a miserable summer. But if you look at the mess we inherited when we first got into office almost 7 years ago, NJ Transit has made a lot of progress on-time performance, safety, customer satisfaction. We don't like anything on those less than 100%, and we will keep fighting until we get there.
Romaine mentioned congestion. Obviously, that's a big goal.
First time I've heard about that.
The Gateway Tunnel project to build those 2 new tunnels under the Hudson River. Donald Trump halted federal funding during his first term. He stalled it, basically. How concerned are you that these funds will be stalled once again or held up or pulled during the second Trump administration?
So first of all, the funds are obligated, and that's a word with heavy definition around federal funding. So that's as close to cement as you get. But having said that, we've found...
Obligated and dispersed are 2 different things.
Yeah, but obligated is a big step, obviously. This is an 8 to 10 year project, so you can't expect that they'll all be dispersed at the moment. Having said that, a big part of the project is the Portal North Bridge, greenlit by Donald Trump as president in June of 2020. I spoke to him last week. That bridge is going to be complete next year, on time and under budget. I asked him if he'd come up and cut the ribbon with me. I don't want to speak for the president, but privately he said he'd very much like to do that. I think he's somebody who understands this region and understands how important infrastructure and moving people and stuff around is. So I'm at this moment with a high degree of confidence. It's a huge union job. Building trades, a job source, tens of thousands. I think the president will be in the right place on this.
And you think you'll have a decent working relationship with him for the next year that you're in office?
I mean, we're gonna fight on stuff as we did. When I walk out of here in January of 26, I will have been the longest serving Democratic governor alongside Donald Trump as president. We've already done it for 3 years. We fought like heck on where our values were challenged, our communities were assaulted or challenged, and will continue to do so. But that does not mean we will not aggressively look for common ground. I have a good relationship with him personally, and we'll continue to do both.
When you first ran for governor 7 or 8 years ago, you ran on a platform of bringing jobs and bringing companies to New Jersey. What has that progress been? And I am curious if you find yourself in competition with your neighboring states, primarily New York and I guess to a smaller extent Connecticut, in attracting those companies and jobs.
Yeah, so our story is a good one, but it's an incomplete one. We've made an enormous amount of progress on GDP growth, on job creation growth. Our unemployment numbers have been coming into a very good spot. We've got a lot of magnets in place that attract both companies and families. #1 public education system in America.
Do new companies want to set up shop in New Jersey?
You bet. The one area where before we got here we had really lost our way as a state was the startup community. And that's now changing dramatically. We've got these strategic innovation hubs in a number of different fields. Venture capital, we were top 3 in the nation in the first half of this year, behind only California and New York. That's the one area in particular where we had a lot of wood to chop and we've made a lot of progress. We're not there yet. We're not satisfied by any means, but a lot of good progress.
So pharma has a strong foothold in New Jersey, and you're talking about startups as kind of the next big area of growth for the state.
You bet. So life sciences, one of the big innovation hubs is in New Brunswick. It's being built as we speak, called the Helix. That will be a life science focused, both big companies, big hospital systems, Rutgers and Princeton with their research, as well as a big startup component.
Okay, one last question here. New Jersey has long been a true blue state, but Donald Trump won more votes in 2024 than he did in 2020, and the state feels like it's shifting red. There are questions about whether New Jersey is the next battleground state. I wonder if you could talk to that, and also the single most important lesson that you think the Democratic Party must learn from the 2024 election.
I don't see it as a battleground state.
No?
I just don't. That doesn't mean we're complacent about it for 1 second. And you're absolutely right. President Trump's margin was about 5 points in New Jersey. Joe Biden won New Jersey 16-ish points. By the way, if you look at New Jersey, Illinois, Maryland, New York, California.
And that doesn't concern you as a Democrat?
So the big blue states all shifted like that. It concerns me.
Why did it shift, though? Do you know?
A whole number of reasons. I think 12 to 15 individual reasons. It did not impact us down ballot. I would be hyper concerned, and I'm not saying I'm complacent about this, because I'm not. We have to be sober, look in the mirror, analyze what happened. But I'd be really panicked if it had a down ballot impact. It did not, for the most part. I'll give you an example. He won Passaic County, big Latino and Muslim populations, by the way. He won that county. Democrats had 4 countywide candidates, including 2 newbies. They all won handily. So the lessons, we have to figure out what the lessons are, but we also have to figure out what was at the top of the ticket in lessons that were unique to the top of the ticket versus Democratic Party down ballot lessons.
What's the lesson that's worked for Democrats in New Jersey down ballot that didn't work at the top?
Be on the side of working families, period. We're the #1 state in America to raise a family. That's especially true for working families. Own that space. Invest in it. Be present. And that has worked for us.
Some would say the Democrats did that, certainly at the national level. I can't speak specifically to New Jersey. The issue wasn't whether they did that. The issue was how that was communicated to the voters. And I'm sure you know there were a lot of voters, both Democrats and Republicans alike, who looked at the economy over the last 4 years and did not feel that that investment was there, at least from the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I mean, the notion is that it got too abstract. Like nice sound bites, but where is it for me? Inflation is still in the system. People are looking, that's the data point that I think matters the most. What am I paying for X today versus 4 years ago?
Is that still the #1 thing you hear from your residents in New Jersey?
I think the economy is still top of the list. It always has been, always will be. The fascinating reality in New Jersey and nationally both is that President Trump got some more votes in New Jersey than he got in 2020. A lot fewer people voted on our side. That, to me, is the
people sat out the election.
People sat on their hands, both nationally and in New Jersey, and that's something we have to get our arms around. Now, 2020 was an all vote by mail election, record turnout across the board, including in New Jersey. But that's, to me, the big sobering. Why did you stay home? With so much at stake, how come you sat this one out? That, to me, is the question we need to get a crisp answer to.
So what is on your to-do list as you get ready, or as a state gets ready for elections next November, to determine whether there's a Democratic governor to follow you up, or perhaps a Republican governor takes your place?
And so while we have not been a swing state at the presidential level or at the Senate, U.S. Senate level, we have been historically back and forth as governor. So we'll see how that plays out. There's a crowded field on both sides of the aisle, a lot of talent running for governor, so we'll see how that works. I think in terms of us, more of the same. So #1 public education system in America, keep investing in that. Keep expanding pre-K. Make sure you continue to be top healthcare, top 5 healthcare state in America. A big clemency initiative. I want to do parole reform, more broadly criminal justice reform. We got elected to grow the economy, but also to make it a fairer economy, address those inequities. We'll continue to do a lot of them.
You only have about 1 year left in office.
14 months.
So I assume you're going to be involved in politics post your gubernatorial
I
run?
have no idea.
No?
I have no idea.
All right. It sounds like it. Based on that laundry
public
list of
service.
things.
Public service is something that I was an ambassador. It's something that that's important to me, and the job of a lifetime has been governor of New Jersey. So I love doing what I can do to serve the public.
Phil Murphy, thank you so much.